As we've seen for some time now, former Vice President Kamala Harris is on her book tour to promote and sell copies of the book about herself. And she'll tell you, it's tiring stuff.
Hello. Hello. Nice to meet you again.
Nice to meet you again. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, everyone.
It's great to have you.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. On 4 hours sleep, I'm fine. This trip is, it just takes a day.
Yes, that is how the interview began when Kamala Harris sat down with ABC's Sarah Ferguson, and Kamala telling Australians that she's the new Sleepy Joe. Kamala was asked about what it felt like to lose the election, and her answer, just wait for it, it's profound.
You say it's not about losing, but losing is awful.
Losing what is what I would propose.
Pointing her finger. Kamala goes on to give the same answers that she's given on all American media outlets, that she lost the election because she needed more time, ignoring the fact that Americans had seen plenty of her during her time as vice president. And Kamala managed to dodge every question about Joe Biden and his obvious decline, and she didn't like being pressed on it.
I want to interrupt you because that is a world-class pivot, but it is not the question that I asked you, which is about Joe Biden's failure to recognise his own frailties and what that did to you. The question is about Joe Biden. Are you still reluctant to criticise the former president?
In what regard, please?
Well, just in terms of that question. So you went on...
What exactly would you like to ask? Be more specific, if you don't mind.
Was it Joe Biden's decision, his failure to recognise his own frailties in that position, that put you in the position that made it almost impossible to win that race?
He was not frail as president of the United States.
No.
But he had frailties. We all saw the debate.
I do believe that Joe Biden had the capacity to be president of the United States.
Biden? Frailties? What frailties? None at all. Although Kamala Harris had no issue criticising Joe Biden in her book, she just couldn't handle being asked about it during that interview.
I was upset about it, as I write about in the book. Yes.
I just sense a slight reluctance to go there, to put those words. It's one thing writing them in the book. Are you unwilling or reluctant to have your criticisms of Joe Biden, as frank as they are in the book, on tape, on camera?
Of course not. I wouldn't have written a book if I didn't want to be on record about that.
So...
That's a curious question.
It's a curious question. Kamala Harris was so uncomfortable in the interview. She essentially demands that Sarah Ferguson just stops asking about Joe Biden altogether, to stop asking questions.
Well, no, I just thought I could detect a difference between what the strength of the language, the clarity you saying, hurt and disappointed.
Well, here's the thing. I wrote a book that the book is not about Joe Biden. So a lot of your questions have been about Joe Biden, and I would really like to talk about the book in full. I'm happy to directly answer any question you ask, but the book is not about Joe Biden.
No.
Oh, poor Kamala. She was there to promote her book. She's got better things to be doing than talking about the Joe Biden cover-up. But in that interview that can only be described as a train wreck, really, Kamala Harris, she got what she wanted, and she was asked about the book and what on earth it actually offers.
It's important, as I write in the book, to keep in mind it was the closest presidential election in the 21st century in America.
No, it wasn't. Kamala lost the popular vote in all 7 swing states in what was a decisive victory for Donald Trump, and thank God for that. Joining us now is Michael Kroger, former president of the Victorian Liberal Party and Sky News contributor. Thank you so much for joining us. Kamala Harris, she keeps trying to rewrite history, lying about how close it was, when in fact it was a much closer election result in 2000 when Al Gore won the popular vote, yet George W. Bush won the Electoral College vote. In 1960, JFK won the popular vote by 0.17 percentage points against Richard Nixon. Kamala, she lost the popular vote, all 7 swing states, and she has nothing else to offer us but spin.
No, she's got absolutely nothing to offer. Well, look, there's several things you can say. First of all, in terms of the 2028 election, if you look at the bookmakers' odds, public opinion polls, she's only the 6th favoured candidate amongst the Democrats. Starts off with Newsom, AOC, Shapiro, Pritzker, Buttigieg, and then Kamala Harris. So even amongst Democrat supporters, they rate her incredibly lowly. And the reason for that is she was a shocking vice president. She was a terrible candidate. And if you look at what Trump's said and what he's doing, the borders, which is an extraordinary achievement, cracking down on crime in these democratic cities, stopping the flow of illegal drugs and fentanyl into America, whether it's from Venezuela or Mexico or other Latin American countries, the peace deals he's done with other countries, freeing the hostages out of Gaza, bringing jobs to America, massive investment into America, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Boy, that's a pretty substantial list of achievements. And if you put that against Joe Biden's achievements, of which there were very few. So Harris was a terrible candidate. She's not really associated with any successes of, you can't say the Biden presidency was great for A, B, and C reasons. And I thought it was, look, as I'm getting older, Gabriella, 30 minutes is a long time in your life. And that's 30 minutes of my life I will not get back watching that vacuous babble about Joe Biden. Yeah. Saying that she sat in all these meetings with Biden and didn't notice any decline at all. What? I mean, to say those things is an insult to the American public. It could see that Joe Biden wasn't fit. And it took George Clooney, of all people, to say, listen, Joe, time to nick off.
Let's talk about Donald Trump. He's on the final leg of his Asia tour, and it's resulted in a historic peace deal between Thailand and Cambodia, transformative trade and investment agreements with Malaysia, Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam, Japan, and here he is in South Korea.
When America thrives, our partners thrive, and our alliances thrive with all of the countries. The Indo-Pacific thrives, and that's good for all of us, and the entire world becomes safer and wealthy and greater than ever before. We get along with a lot of countries. We solved a lot of wars and a lot of problems, and that's all good for all of us. The extraordinary American turnaround that I've just described has been achieved not by just continuing business as usual back in Washington.
Michael, although Donald Trump clearly puts America first and he has an American first agenda, that doesn't mean America alone. What do you make of his Asia tour?
Well, again, very successful. I thought his meeting in Japan was extraordinary, re-emphasising the close relationship between America and Japan, Malaysia, now South Korea. This guy is very different to every other US president we've seen, apart maybe from Clinton. Trump uses his personal and American muscle, right? He swings a bat around the world and he's getting things done. He's not for this soft touch diplomacy done through bureaucrats and diplomats. He uses the muscle of the American economy and the American military like no other president I've ever seen. Clinton had extraordinary personal skills, but this guy, you know, through his charm and charisma, if you want to call it that, and the bat he's carrying, gets these countries to submit to the will of the Americans. And I think what he's done in some of these wars has been extraordinary. I mean, the Congo war that he helped resolve was extraordinary. That nasty conflict with Rwanda had been going on for a long time. And of course, in Gaza, the crowning achievement, getting the hostages out. So he's very different to any other president we've seen, and so far in international relations, he's been extraordinarily successful. If you put that record against any other modern president, he's well ahead of anybody. No one rates compared to what Trump's done on the international stage, Gab.
Well, you won't get that kind of assessment that you've just given on outlets like MSNBC. And when I was looking to do my Media Meltdown segment this week, I was looking at this meltdown from MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell, who can't handle that there's just one conservative on CNN, who is, of course, Scott Jennings. Listen to this.
And now CNN eagerly pays a Trump supporter to lie on CNN every day and night for Donald Trump. CNN did this during the first Trump presidential campaign and presidency. CNN regularly paid Trump supporters to lie about Trump on CNN, but the CNN regime then realized that was a mistake. And they stopped doing it. They stopped paying for lies. But then CNN got a new head. The head of CNN for the last 3 years, hired by the Trump-supporting owner and operator of CNN, is an Englishman who thinks paying Scott Jennings to lie about Donald Trump is money very well spent. It's Scott Jennings, who used to be an aide to Senator Mitch McConnell, was not always a rabid, lying Trump supporter. When he first started appearing on television, he was capable of criticizing some of the more extreme Trump positions. But Scott Jennings figured out where the money is and how he could get his own podcast and decided to become the J.D. Vance of CNN.
I mean, the TDS is just off the charts. It's not like CNN is balanced. It has one conservative, and thank God for Scott Jennings.
Well, look, what's happening in the American media is this. You've got the Democratic Party going to the hard left, and MSNBC have decided to cash in on that. They are the broadcaster for the hard left in America now. So now they're attacking CNN, who are hardly pro-Trump. So
exactly.
what that guy's trying to do is become, the home for all the American left freak show. And as you say, to criticise CNN for having one supporter, and of course, if you agree with Trump, you're a liar. I mean, seriously. So this is the problem with MSNBC. Their own ratings, of course, are down enormously over the last few years. Fox have gone up incredibly strongly, and they've just decided they're the home of the hard left. Now, going back to what we were saying before, the problem for Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris and Pritzker, the more moderate, sensible, Clinton-esque, political descendants of Bill Clinton, and the sort of more sensible, mainstream, moderate, rational Kennedy wing of the Democratic Party is, that the Democratic Party itself, the membership have gone mad left. Stations like MSNBC have gone mad left, and they're going to support, an AOC type candidate. Bernie Sanders is probably too old now, but they're going to endorse a hard left candidate against J.D. Vance because that's their home now. They're gravitating to the extreme left because moderate positions are not drawing any ratings in America.
Michael, let's just turn to news in Australia. Former Prime Minister Scott Morrison has made an intervention on the coalition's issues with net zero, saying that net zero at any cost on a rigid timetable is not policy but ideology. It's interesting, this also comes just as Bill Gates, who spent decades fear-mongering around climate change, has now backflipped, saying that climate change will not lead to humanity's demise. So it seems like more and more people are kind of getting a bit of common sense when it comes to climate change. But what do you make of Scott Morrison's comments and what it means for the coalition's position?
Well, I thought Scott was absolutely correct. It is an ideology. I mean, most people don't know what net zero means here in Australia. They sort of grab this phrase and say, oh, yes, we agree with it. It's become part of the religion here. The more thinking people like the idea of a net zero increase in emissions, but say, well, hang on, it can't come at any cost. It can't come at booming prices, particularly for electricity. And so what we're seeing around the world, not just here, but in Britain and Germany, other countries, is people saying, look, we like it as an objective, but it is sending our countries deep, deep, deep into debt. It's killing the chances of the working middle class to pay their bills. And so you're seeing a market correction. The problem the coalition's got here in Australia is that having introduced net zero in 2021, we're now actually trying to tell people, no, now we're against it. And that's politically a very difficult argument. It takes several years to sort of explain to people why you're now changing your mind. It's a sophisticated argument. And so the coalition here are being bedeviled a bit by our own history, because as I said, it was only 4 years ago that we first introduced this policy, which the nation then grabbed.
Finally, Michael, Victoria's crime crisis isn't getting any better. Just in the space of 48 hours at the start of the week, there was a string of violent incidents in Melbourne, including a knife attack. There are, of course, growing calls for intervention from the Victorian government. Yet the Premier, Jacinta Allan, she insists that everything is fine.
Well, of course, she's a member of the hard left of the Labor Party. She's like sort of members of the hard left of these Democratic-run cities in America that pretend crime doesn't exist. She gives press conferences, despite the fact people hit with machetes and knives all around Melbourne. She says, no, Melbourne's safe. There's sort of zombie interviews where she's saying things which are completely unbelievable, and people just look at her and shake their heads. So Victoria's basically lawless these days. People get caught, they get bail, they get caught again, they get bail. I mean, it's a very soft bail regime we have here in Victoria. And one of the things the opposition tried to do here was to bring in a law to stop people wearing masks at demonstrations. A lot of these demonstrations are violent. They have terrorist flags, terrorist symbols. Nazis at these demonstrations. And so to put these people to their proof, the opposition tried to bring in a policy in the parliament yesterday to say, if you're going to demonstrate, you can't go with a mask. Well, the Labor Party opposed that. So that shows you how serious they are about bringing people to account for some of the violence that happens at these demonstrations. And we have a massive, massive law and order problem here in Victoria, and it seems to be getting worse.
Michael Kroger, former president of the Victorian Liberal Party and Sky News contributor, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thanks, Gab.